Every year, hundreds of thousands of Canadians walk into a car dealership with a pile of cash. They have saved for years. They feel responsible. They feel smart. No monthly payment. No interest. Just a clean deal and a car they own outright. And every single one of them just made a six-figure mistake. Not a small mistake. A quiet, invisible, wealth-destroying mistake that will cost them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime, and they will never even know it happened. Today, we are going to break down the single most misunderstood financial decision in Canadian car buying. Because the truth is, paying cash for a car feels like freedom, but it is actually a trap. And once you understand why, you will never buy another vehicle the same way again. Let's start with something most people never think about. A car is not an asset. Not really. An asset puts money in your pocket. A house can be rented. Stocks pay dividends. A business produces income. But a car? A car takes money out of your pocket from the moment you drive it off the lot. Insurance, fuel, maintenance, depreciation. On average, a new car loses 20 to 30% of its value in the first 12 months. After 5 years, it has often lost 60% or more. So here is the first brutal truth. When you pay $30,000, $40,000, $60,000 in cash for a car, you are not buying an asset. You are converting liquid, flexible, investable cash into a guaranteed depreciating object. You are taking something that could grow and turning it into something that will shrink. And that is just the beginning. Let's talk about opportunity cost. This is the single most powerful force in personal finance, and almost nobody factors it into a car purchase. Imagine you have $50,000 in cash. You want to buy a car. You pay cash. Done. Car is yours. 5 years later, that car is worth maybe $20,000. You lost $30,000 in value. Painful, but normal. Now imagine instead that you do not pay cash. You finance the car. You put zero down. You take that $50,000 and you invest it in a low-cost, diversified portfolio. Canadian index funds, some global exposure, maybe a balanced ETF. Historically, a conservative long-term return is 6 to 7% on average. Let us use 7%. After 5 years, that $50,000 grows to roughly $70,000. After 10 years, it becomes $98,000. After 20 years, without adding a single extra dollar, that $50,000 becomes $193,000, almost $200,000. So the real question is not, can I afford to pay cash? The real question is, what does that cash cost me in future wealth? When you pay cash for a car, you are not saving interest. You are burning compound growth. You are taking a lump sum that could work for you for decades and setting it on fire for the convenience of no monthly payment. And here is the part that the personal finance gurus never tell you. Interest rates on car loans in Canada, even today, are often lower than the long-term return of the stock market. In 2024 and 2025, many manufacturers offered financing at 3, 4, even 2.5% on new vehicles. Subvented rates, promotional rates, rates that do not even keep up with inflation over time. If you can borrow at 3% and earn 7% on invested cash, the math is not complicated. You do not pay cash. You let the bank lend you cheap money and you keep your expensive cash working for you. But wait, someone in the comments is already angry. Debt is bad, they say. I hate payments. I understand. Really, I do. There is a psychological weight to owing money. But here is the uncomfortable truth that separates wealthy behavior from middle-class behavior. Wealthy people do not fear debt. They fear bad debt. And they understand the difference between consumer debt and strategic debt. Credit card debt at 20%, that is an emergency. A payday loan at 400%, that is financial suicide. But a car loan at 3 or 4% secured against a depreciating asset with cash sitting in an account earning more, that is not bad debt. That is a spread trade. It is the same math banks use every single day. Borrow low, invest high, keep the difference. Let me introduce you to someone. She does not have a name, but you know her. Maybe you are her. She is 42 years old. She lives in Calgary. She has been driving a 2016 Honda Civic for 9 years. It is rusty. It has 220,000 kilometers. The check engine light has been on for 11 months. But she is responsible. She saved. She has $40,000 in a high-interest savings account, earning 1.2% interest. She walks into a dealership. She finds a used SUV for $35,000. She pays cash. No payment. She feels great. Responsible. Debt-free. Now let us look at her neighbor. He is 42 years old. Same income, same savings. He buys the exact same SUV, but he finances the entire $35,000 at 4% over 5 years. His monthly payment is roughly $645. He takes his $35,000 in cash and puts it into a balanced ETF portfolio. 5 years later, here is what actually happens. The neighbor who paid cash has a car worth maybe $18,000. He has no investment growth because he spent his cash. His net cost over 5 years is $35,000 spent, plus maintenance, plus depreciation. The neighbor who financed has made $6,400 in interest payments over 5 years, but his $35,000 invested at 7% is now worth $49,000. That is $14,000 in growth. Subtract the $6,400 in interest, and he is still ahead by almost $8,000. And he still has a car worth $18,000. Same car, same time period, same starting cash. One neighbor is $8,000 richer just by not paying cash. And that gap gets larger over time. If that neighbor keeps the money invested for 10 years instead of 5, the gap becomes enormous. Not because he did anything complicated, not because he took huge risks, simply because he understood that cash in a depreciating object is not safety, it is sacrifice. Now let us talk about the second hidden danger of paying cash. Dealership behavior. When you walk into a Canadian car dealership and say, "I am paying cash," you have just announced one thing very clearly. You are not going to make them any money on financing. Dealerships make a significant portion of their profit on loan origination fees, interest rate markups, and financing commissions. When you pay cash, you are literally less profitable to them. So what happens? They have less incentive to give you a good price. They are less flexible on the trade-in. They push you toward higher margin add-ons, extended warranties, rust proofing, fabric protection. These are high profit items that you do not need. On the other hand, when you say, "I am financing," the dealership sees an opportunity. They can make money on the loan, and that gives you leverage. You can negotiate a lower purchase price because they know they will make it up on the back end. Then, and here is the important part, you can pay off the loan early. Most car loans in Canada are open loans. There is no prepayment penalty. You can finance the car, drive it off the lot, and pay the entire loan off 30 days later. You get the lower price from the dealership's financing incentive, and you still end up without long-term debt. This strategy alone can save you thousands of dollars on the exact same car. Let's look at the numbers. A car listed at $40,000. Cash buyer walks in. Best price they can get is $38,000. Financed buyer walks in. Dealership thinks they will make $1,500 on the loan. They drop the price to $36,500. Financed buyer takes the loan, waits 60 days, pays it off in full. They just saved $1,500 for 30 minutes of paperwork. That is real money. And it is available to almost every Canadian with decent credit. Now let's talk about risk. Because someone is thinking investing is risky. Car debt is risky. What if the market crashes? Fair question. Let's be honest. The stock market does not go up in a straight line. There are crashes. There are corrections. But here is the reality. A car loan is a fixed, predictable, known cost. 3%, 4%, 5%. That number does not change. Over a 5 or 7 year loan, the market has historically returned more than that in almost every rolling period. Not every single year, but over the life of the loan, the probability is overwhelmingly in your favor. And here is the safety valve that nobody talks about. If you finance the car and invest your cash, and the market crashes tomorrow, what actually happens? Your car payment stays the same. Your investments are down on paper. But unless you sell, you have not lost anything. You wait. The market recovers. It always has. And during that time, you still have your cash. It is not gone. It is just temporarily reduced. If you paid cash for the car and the market crashes, you have nothing. Your cash is gone. It became a car. And that car is also worth less because used car prices drop in a recession. You lost on both sides. The cash buyer has no options. The finance buyer has liquidity. Liquidity is freedom. Liquidity is the ability to handle an emergency, cover a job loss, or take advantage of an opportunity. When your cash is trapped in a car, you have no liquidity. You just have a depreciating hunk of metal. Let's look at 3 real-world Canadian numbers that put this into perspective. The average new car price in Canada in 2025 is just over $60,000. The average used car is roughly $37,000. The average Canadian household savings rate is about 6% of disposable income. That means for a typical family, saving $60,000 in cash takes years. Years of delaying RRSP contributions, years of skipping TFSA deposits, years of missing market growth. And for what? To avoid a monthly payment at 4% interest? That is not financial discipline. That is financial self-harm. Now look at the TFSA. The contribution room for someone who turned 18 in 2009 is now over $95,000. If you save for a car in cash inside your TFSA, that money grows tax-free while you wait. If you spend it on the car, you lose that contribution room until next year. But if you keep the money invested and finance the car instead, your TFSA keeps growing. That tax-free compounding is massively valuable. Wasting it on a car is a mistake most Canadians do not even know they are making. So let's summarize the smart way to buy a car in Canada, not the emotional way. Not the debt is evil way, the mathematically correct way. Step 1. Never pay cash for a car if you can get financing at a rate lower than your expected long-term investment return. That is almost always true for new cars, and often true for used cars with good credit. Step 2. Negotiate the purchase price as if you are financing. Let the dealership think they will make money on the loan. Get the lowest possible price. Step 3. Take the financing. Put zero down or as little as possible. Step 4. Take the cash you would have spent on the car and invest it immediately in a low-cost diversified portfolio inside your TFSA or RRSP. Index funds, balanced ETFs, dividend stocks, whatever matches your risk tolerance. Step 5. Make the monthly payments from your regular income. Treat them like any other bill. Step 6. If you want to feel safe, keep the invested cash available. If the loan rate is low with the investment, ride. If rates rise or your situation changes, you can always pay off the loan early because Canadian auto loans are almost always open. That is it. That is the entire strategy. It is not complicated. It is not risky. It is simply math. Now let's address the emotional objection one more time because it is the most powerful one. I just want to own my car. I hate payments. I get it. I really do. There is a feeling of freedom when you hold the ownership certificate. No lender, no due date, no interest. But here is the truth that feels uncomfortable. That feeling of freedom is an illusion. True financial freedom is not the absence of payments. True financial freedom is the presence of options. Options to leave a job you hate. Options to help a family member in crisis. Options to retire early. Options to take a risk on a business. When you convert $50,000 of liquid cash into a depreciating car, you are not buying freedom. You are buying a smaller future. You are trading compound growth for comfort. You are choosing to feel good today at the cost of being poorer 10 years from now. The wealthy person looks at a car and sees a tool, a necessary expense, a utility. They finance it at low rates and invest their cash. The middle-class person looks at a car and sees a reward, a sign of success, a milestone. They pay cash because they want to feel accomplished. And that difference in mindset, not income, not inheritance, not luck, is what separates people who build wealth from people who look wealthy. Let's bring this home with one final number. The average Canadian invests about 3% of their take-home pay, less than 3%. The average car payment for a new vehicle is over $800 a month. That is almost $10,000 a year. For many families, that is more than they save for retirement, more than they put in their TFSA, more than they invest. If you pay cash for a car, you avoid the payment. That is true. But you also skip the forced saving. When you finance, you make the payment, and you keep your lump sum invested. Over time, that discipline creates wealth. The cash buyer has a paid-off car. The finance buyer has a car, plus a growing investment account. In 20 years, the cash buyer has a car worth nothing, and whatever they manage to save after that purchase. The financed buyer has $200,000 or more in investments. That is the difference. That is why paying cash for a car in Canada is one of the most expensive mistakes you can make. Not because debt is good, but because opportunity cost is real. Because compound growth is powerful. Because liquidity matters. Because the math does not care about your feelings. So the next time you walk into a dealership, do not be the proud cash buyer. Do not be the person who brags about no payments. Be the quiet, boring, mathematically correct buyer. Finance the car. Invest the cash. Watch your wealth grow while you drive. And if you learned something from this video, hit that subscribe button. Because the way most Canadians think about money is quietly keeping them poor, and we are just getting started.